My name is Eliza Hale, and I'm 34. They didn't give me a seat at the wedding. Not really. They handed me a folded card with my name misspelled. Elise instead of Eliza, and pointed vaguely toward the back, as if I were late to a movie they didn't expect me to watch anyway. Over there, the bridesmaid said, already turning away. I smiled. I always smiled. I had learned a long time ago that silence makes people underestimate you faster than anger ever could. I walked past rows of ivory chairs tied with silk bows, past champagne flutes already sweating in the afternoon heat, past relatives who glanced at me once and then looked away, their eyes sliding off me like I didn't quite exist. This was my cousin Nathan's wedding, and apparently I was just extra furniture. I took the last chair in the corner, the one partially blocked by a pillar, the one where half the ceremony would be hidden unless I leaned forward. It felt fitting. If you'd asked anyone there who I was, they would have said the same things they always did. Oh, that's Eliza. She's quiet. She never really did much. She moved away, didn't she? Or tried something and failed. I could practically hear them because I had heard them before. 10 years earlier, this same family had sat around a dining table and decided, without asking me, that I was too soft to inherit anything meaningful when my grandfather passed. Too emotional. Too introverted, too small. Nathan was ambitious. Nathan looked like success, so they gave him the business. And they gave me condolences. I didn't fight it, I just left. The music swelled as the ceremony began. Nathan stood at the altar in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my first car. His smile was wide, confident, practiced. The kind of smile that had convinced investors, charmed clients, and fooled relatives for years. Beside him, his bride glowed. She looked nervous, not excited nervous, something else. I noticed that right away. People think quiet women don't notice things. They're wrong. As vows were exchanged, whispers drifted behind me. Why did she even come? I thought she cut ties. She probably wants attention. I leaned back in my chair and folded my hands in my lap. If only they knew how badly I wanted the opposite. When the officiant announced them married, applause erupted. Cameras flashed. Everyone stood. Everyone except me. I stayed seated for a moment longer, letting the sound wash over me. Because this wasn't just a wedding, it was a performance, and I knew how this show ended. At the reception, the seating chart made things clearer. I was at table 12, not with family, not with friends. With distant acquaintances and someone's coworker who kept checking his phone. Nathan and his new wife were at the head table, elevated on a platform like royalty. My aunt leaned down to whisper to someone nearby, glancing at me with narrowed eyes. I caught a fragment. She's always been strange, never ambitious. I lifted my champagne glass and took a slow sip. The irony tasted sharp. Dinner passed. Speeches began. Nathan's best man stood, raising a glass. To a man who built everything from nothing. Laughter, applause, I almost choked, from nothing. I pressed my tongue to the roof of my mouth and breathed. Wait. Then came the moment I hadn't expected. Nathan stood for his speech. He thanked his parents, his friends, his mentors. Then he said, smiling like he was doing me a favor. And of course, thank you to my cousin Eliza, wherever you are, for teaching me what not to do with my life. Laughter exploded. People turned to look at me, some with pity, some with amusement, some with that familiar superiority that says I'm glad I'm not you. I stood, not dramatically, just calmly. And for the first time that day, the room went quiet. I didn't say anything. I just met Nathan's eyes, held them, and smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The kind that makes confident men uncomfortable for reasons they can't explain. He hesitated, then laughed awkwardly and continued his speech. But the energy had shifted. He felt it. So did I. Later, as the band played and people danced, Nathan approached me near the bar. I didn't think you'd actually show up, he said. I was invited, I replied. He smirked. Barely. I tilted my head. Still counted. He leaned closer. You always did like pretending you belonged. There it was, the old narrative. I nodded slowly. Enjoy your night, Nathan. I turned away before he could respond. Because the truth was, I didn't come to belong, I came to finish something. As I stepped outside for air, my phone vibrated. A single message. Ready when you are. I typed back one word. Wait. Inside, the music swelled louder. Inside, they laughed and toasted and celebrated a man they thought they knew. Inside, a long-running lie continued to breathe. For now. I looked back through the glass doors at the reception. At Nathan. At the company logo projected behind the stage. At the people who had dismissed me. And I thought, you gave me the worst seat in the room, so you wouldn't see what happens next. They like to say I disappeared, that I drifted away, that I couldn't handle failure. It's a comforting lie, one that lets them sleep at night. The truth is, I was pushed, carefully and quietly, the way people remove something they don't value anymore. And Nathan was standing right there when it happened. I didn't always sit in corners at weddings. There was a time when everyone listened when I spoke. They just don't like remembering that part. 10 years earlier, the conference room smelled like stale coffee and polished wood. My grandfather's portrait hung crooked on the wall, watching us with that stern expression he wore when people disappointed him. I was 26. Too young, they said. Too idealistic. Too quiet. Nathan sat across from me, legs crossed, confidence spilling out of him like it had nowhere else to go. He wore a navy suit, new, expensive. He hadn't earned it yet, but no one seemed to care. The lawyer cleared his throat. We'll begin with the distribution of operational control. Operational control. That was the phrase that decided everything. My grandfather had built the company from nothing. A logistics firm that moved small shipments at first, then bigger ones, then entire supply chains. He used to say it wasn't about money, it was about leverage. I had spent years beside him, learning systems, studying contracts, understanding where power really lived. Nathan had spent those years networking and failing upward. The board feels, my aunt said, folding her hands, that Nathan is better suited for leadership. I looked around the table. Not one person met my eyes. Better suited how? I asked. Too calm, apparently. They didn't like that. He's more visible, my uncle said. Clients respond to him. I nodded. Clients respond to results, Nathan smiled, which I'll be delivering. There it was, the arrogance they mistook for strength. I turned to the lawyer. What does the will say? A pause. He adjusted his glasses. Your grandfather left discretionary authority to the board regarding executive roles. Translation, they'd already decided. I felt something settle in my chest, not sadness. Clarity. So, I said slowly, after working under him for 6 years, after drafting the expansion proposal that doubled revenue, I'm being sidelined. My aunt sighed. Eliza, don't be emotional. That word again. Emotional. The favorite excuse of people who can't argue facts. Nathan leaned forward. Look, cousin, you're brilliant behind the scenes. But this company needs a face, a voice. I smiled faintly. And you think that's you? I know it is. That confidence, that certainty was the moment I realized something crucial. He didn't know. He had no idea what actually made the company work. I could have fought. I could have screamed. I could have dragged every skeleton into the light. Instead, I did the most dangerous thing imaginable. I agreed. Fine, I said. Give Nathan the title. Relief flooded the room. They thought they'd won. They didn't notice my next words. But I want my shares transferred into a private holding entity. The lawyer frowned. That's unusual. So is sidelining the person who understands your infrastructure, I replied. They hesitated. Then nodded, because they thought shares were just paper. I left that meeting with nothing visible. No title, no office, no applause, just ownership and freedom. That's the part they never tell at family gatherings. They prefer the version where I couldn't handle the pressure and ran away. It sounds better than admitting they handed power to the wrong person. I moved away quietly, changed numbers, stopped attending holidays. And while they watched Nathan's smiling face in press releases, I watched the company's internal data. Because when you own something silently, you see everything. Every shortcut, every falsified report, every shell transaction, every lie. Nathan didn't just grow the business, he bled it. Slowly, cleverly. Through consultants who didn't exist and vendors owned by friends. Through inflated costs and hidden kickbacks. It was elegant, almost impressive, if it hadn't been so stupid. Over the years, I archived everything. Contracts, emails, voice messages. I didn't intervene. I waited. Because exposure too early looks like jealousy. Exposure at the right moment looks like truth. Back at the wedding, as I stood outside under the string lights, memories washed over me like cold water. Inside, Nathan danced. He looked unstoppable. Men like him always do, right before the fall. My phone vibrated again. The accountant is nervous. I smiled. Good. Fear loosens tongues. I typed back, not yet. Revenge isn't loud, it's precise. I went back inside just in time to see Nathan kiss his bride. She looked stiff. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I wondered what she knew, or what she suspected. Some people marry into lies. Some people inherit them. As the night went on, I caught snippets of conversation. Did you hear they're expanding again? Must be nice to have his kind of drive. Such a success story. I nodded along when they spoke to me. Let them believe it. Let them underestimate the woman in the corner. That's where I do my best work. Nathan raised a glass again. To the future, he said. I raised mine too, to the end. Because tomorrow morning, a meeting would take place. One Nathan didn't know he'd already agreed to. And by the time he realized what was happening, the story they told about me would collapse. Along with everything else, people think revenge is fueled by anger. It is. Anger burns too fast. Anger makes mistakes. What I felt was colder, intent. The morning after the wedding, the world looked exactly the same. Traffic still moved. Markets still opened. Nathan still woke up believing he was untouchable. That's the beauty of a well-built trap. Nothing changes until everything does. I checked out of my hotel early. The concierge smiled politely, the way people do when they don't expect you to matter. I left a generous tip. Not because I wanted approval, but because I never confuse money with emotion. My phone vibrated before I reached the car. THEY confirmed. I didn't respond. Not yet. 10 years ago, when I walked away from the company, I didn't disappear. I relocated to a smaller city, quieter, cheaper, somewhere no one from my family would ever bother to look. I rented a narrow office with bad lighting and worse heating, and I did something Nathan never learned how to do. I studied consequences. The company's structure was elegant on the surface. Layers of subsidiaries, third-party vendors, consultants with vague deliverables. Nathan loved complexity. It made him feel smart. He didn't realize complexity is also a map, and maps show patterns. I created a parallel system, not illegal, not hostile, just observant. Every quarter, I matched invoices to output, compared reported growth to actual logistics movement, cross-referenced vendors against registration databases. It took years. That's the part no one respects. When I found the first discrepancy, I almost laughed. A consulting firm billing 6 figures for strategic analysis. No employees, no online presence, registered to a mailbox 2 states away, owned by Nathan's college roommate, amateur. I documented everything, but I didn't confront anyone, because truth without timing is just noise. Instead, I built relationships, quiet ones, accountants who noticed inconsistencies, auditors who asked the wrong questions and were reassigned, junior executives who were ignored and therefore honest. I never asked for loyalty. I offered safety. Back in the present, I parked across the street from a glass building Nathan believed was just another vendor. It was. It was mine. I stepped inside and nodded to the receptionist. "Morning, Eliza." She handed me a tablet. "They're ready when you are." I adjusted my coat, not armor, just fabric. The room was small. 6 people sat around the table. No titles, no bravado. Just competence, the kind that doesn't need applause. "Where are we?" I asked. A man with tired eyes leaned forward. "The forensic review is complete." My pulse stayed steady. Say it. There's enough evidence to trigger a full investigation. Another woman spoke next. And enough plausible deniability to make it devastating. Good. Total destruction is messy. I preferred precision. What about the bride? I asked. A pause. She doesn't benefit from the shell accounts, the woman said, but she signed documents she shouldn't have. I closed my eyes briefly. Not guilt, recognition. People always ask how men like Nathan get away with it. The answer is simple. They rely on women to clean up after them. I leaned back. Then we proceed. They nodded. This wasn't dramatic. This was administration. Later that afternoon, I sat in a cafe across from Nathan's office. I watched employees come and go, ambitious, hopeful, unaware. They deserved better leadership. They would get it, just not from him. My phone buzzed again. He called an emergency board meeting. I smiled into my coffee. Of course he did. Panic always announces itself. I remembered the day I set the final hook, 3 months earlier. Nathan had been drunk on expansion, new markets, new loans, new risk. I'd sent a single email. From a holding company he didn't realize I controlled, offering capital. He didn't even hesitate, didn't ask who was behind it, didn't question why the terms were so favorable. Greed makes men careless. That loan agreement, it included clauses, audit triggers, oversight rights. Emergency governance review, all legal, all signed by him. I sipped my coffee. Across the street, Nathan appeared behind the glass, phone pressed to his ear, face tight. He paced. I watched. This was the first moment he felt it. The shift. At the emergency meeting, they would ask questions. He would deflect. Blame market conditions. Blame timing. Blame anything except himself. But doubt would take root. And doubt spreads faster than truth. By evening, the first article would be published. Not accusatory, just curious. Questions raised about rapid growth strategy. Investors hate curiosity. That night, I returned to my hotel and turned on the television. Nathan's face appeared on screen, smiling stiffly, talking about vision, about integrity. I muted the sound. Lies don't need amplification. My phone lit up one last time. The bride wants to meet you. I stared at the message, then typed, tomorrow, because this story wasn't just about revenge. It was about reckoning. And the woman he married, she was standing at the edge of the truth. Whether she fell with him or stepped away was still her choice. She didn't recognize me at first. That was intentional. We met in a quiet hotel lounge the next afternoon. Neutral territory, soft lighting, no witnesses. She arrived 10 minutes early, sat with her back straight, hands folded too tightly in her lap. A woman bracing for impact. I ordered tea. She ordered nothing. "You're Eliza," she said finally. I nodded. "You're Claire." Her eyes flicked toward my left hand. Empty, then back to my face. "I didn't know he had family like you," she said carefully. I smiled. "He prefers selective memory." There was a long pause. People expect confrontations to be explosive. They rarely are. Real ones are quiet. "He told me you left because you couldn't keep up," Claire said. I stirred my tea slowly. "That's one version," she swallowed. "I don't think he lies about everything." "No," I said. "Just the important parts." She exhaled, sharp and shaky. "They're auditing the company." "Yes, and the board is panicking." "Yes, and Nathan thinks this is an attack from a competitor." I tilted my head. "Is it?" Her eyes narrowed. "Isn't it?" I leaned forward just enough to matter. "No, it's accountability." Her composure cracked, not dramatically, just enough for truth to slip through. "I found something," she said quietly. My pulse didn't change. "I assumed you would." She reached into her bag and slid a folder across the table. I didn't touch it yet. "What do you think it is?" I asked. Her voice dropped. "Proof." I opened the folder. Bank transfers. Signatures, dates, not new to me. But confirmation is powerful when it comes from the inside. "You didn't benefit from these," I said. She shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't even know." I believed her. Not because I'm kind, because I'm accurate. "Why marry him?" I asked. Her laugh was hollow. "Because I believed the man I met." I nodded. "That happens." Silence stretched. Then she asked the question she'd been holding since the moment she messaged me. "Are you doing this?" I met her gaze. "Yes," she didn't flinch. "That told me everything." "What happens to him?" she asked. "That depends on his choices." "And me?" "That depends on yours." She stared at her hands, then looked up. "I won't protect him," I smiled. That was the moment the story changed. Nathan didn't notice at first. He was too busy fighting shadows. The board questioned him. The press circled. Investors started calling. He responded with charm and confidence and just enough truth to stay afloat. For now, but something else was happening. People stopped returning his calls. Meetings were postponed, decisions stalled. Power was draining from him, slowly, invisibly. He called me that night, for the first time in 10 years. "How did you get my number?" he demanded. I smiled into the phone. "You never deleted it." A pause, then, "Is this you? Is what me? This mess?" I considered lying, then decided it would hurt more not to. "Yes." His laugh was sharp. "Defensive, you're jealous." "No, you always resented me." "No, you couldn't stand that I won." There it was, the delusion. "You didn't win," I said calmly. "You borrowed time." Silence. Then his voice dropped. "What do you want?" "Everything," but I didn't say that. "I want the truth," I said. "And I want you to stop pretending you built something you didn't understand." "You can't touch me," he snapped. "You walked away," I smiled. "No," I said softly. "I stepped back." The line went dead. The next morning, the second article dropped. "Internal review raises governance questions." Shares dipped. Not enough to crash, enough to terrify. Nathan showed up at the office early, stayed late. Snapped at assistants, started making mistakes. Pressure changes people, it reveals them. By afternoon, the board requested a private session. Without him, that was new. Meanwhile, Claire packed a bag, not dramatically, just essentials. She left the ring on the dresser. Power isn't loud when it leaves. That evening, I sat in my hotel room and opened my laptop. I logged into a system Nathan had forgotten existed. The original shareholder registry. My name sat there quietly, untouched, unchallenged, majority stake. I scheduled a meeting, mandatory attendance. Executive and board. Subject line, clarification of ownership and governance authority. When Nathan saw it, he froze. For the first time since I'd known him, he was afraid. Because now he understood. I hadn't come back to beg. I hadn't come back to belong. I had come back to take back what was always mine. The boardroom hadn't changed. Same glass table, same leather chairs. Same city skyline pretending permanence. Only the energy was different. Fear has a smell, and it was everywhere. I arrived early, not to assert dominance, just to remind myself how patient I'd been. I chose a seat halfway down the table, not the head. Power doesn't rush for visibility. One by one, they filed in. Board members, legal counsel, senior executives, no laughter, no small talk. Then Nathan walked in. Late, of course. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me. He stopped, just for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. "What is she doing here?" he snapped. No one answered. I met his gaze calmly. "Good morning, Nathan. This is a closed meeting," he said, voice tight. The board chair cleared his throat. "Actually, she has standing." Nathan laughed. A brittle sound. "No, she left." I folded my hands. "You keep saying that." The lawyer slid a folder across the table, toward Nathan. "Mr. Hale," he said carefully, "before we proceed, we need to clarify ownership structure." Nathan frowned. "We've been over this." "Yes," the lawyer replied. "But not accurately." Nathan opened the folder. Color drained from his face as he flipped through the pages. Share distribution, voting rights, control thresholds, my name again and again. "This isn't possible," he said. I tilted my head. "It's documented." "You signed off on this," the lawyer added. 10 years ago." Nathan looked up slowly, at me. "You planned this." I smiled faintly. "You ignored it," the board chair spoke. "Ms. Hale currently holds a controlling interest through a holding entity." Silence. "Then that's a lie," Nathan said. "She doesn't even work here." I leaned forward. I never stopped owning you, gasps. Someone shifted uncomfortably. Claire wasn't there. That absence spoke louder than anything. You manipulated this, Nathan said, standing now. You tricked me. No, I replied. I gave you exactly what you asked for. The room held its breath. You wanted the spotlight, I continued. I wanted leverage. The lawyer cleared his throat again. Additionally, the audit has identified significant irregularities. Nathan spun toward him. You said this was routine. It was, the lawyer said, until it was. They began listing them. Shell companies, unauthorized transfers, breach of fiduciary duty. Each word landed like a strike. Nathan's confidence cracked. This is a setup, he said wildly. She's behind this. I didn't deny it. I didn't need to. The board chair looked at me. What are you requesting? Requesting. Not demanding. That alone was victory. I'm not here to punish, I said calmly. Nathan scoffed. I ignored him. I'm here to correct. I slid a document forward. Effective immediately, I'm exercising my governance rights. Murmurs rippled. Mr. Hale is relieved of executive authority pending investigation. Nathan laughed. Too loud, too fast. You can't do that. I met his eyes. I just did. Security appeared at the door, not dramatic, just present. This is my company, Nathan shouted. I stood. And for the first time, I took the head seat. No, I said quietly. It was your stage. The room was silent as security escorted him out. He didn't look back. He couldn't. Afterward, no one spoke for a long moment. Then the board chair exhaled. Ms. Hale, he said, we owe you an apology. I nodded once. I'm not here for that. Outside, reporters waited. Questions flew. I didn't stop. I didn't smile. I let the truth arrive on its own. That night, Nathan's face was everywhere. Headlines screamed betrayal, fraud, collapse, and me, I went home. Not to celebrate, but to rest, because this wasn't the end. The morning after the board meeting, the company was already buzzing, not with excitement, with fear. I walked through the offices quietly, unassuming. People glanced up. Whispers spread. Is she really in charge? Yes. The fear was deliciously subtle. Not humiliation, not spectacle, just realization. That slow, creeping truth that someone they'd underestimated for years was now running everything. Nathan didn't wait long to respond. He barged into my temporary office mid-morning. You can't do this, he shouted, slamming a folder on the table. We can negotiate. You don't have to ruin everything. I didn't flinch. Negotiate, I echoed softly. You stole from shareholders, mismanaged assets, lied to everyone. You don't get to negotiate accountability. You get to face it. He laughed, sharp, unhinged. You think you're better than me? You think this makes you powerful? I leaned forward. No, I've always been powerful. You just ignored it. The veins in his neck tightened. His hands trembled. His empire, the one he built on arrogance and shortcuts, was unraveling before him, and he knew it. Later that day, Claire made her move. She requested a private meeting, not in a cafe this time. Not outside the city. She wanted to stand beside Truth, and she wanted to see him squirm. People need to know what happened, she said, eyes firm. I'm done covering for him. I nodded. Good. Then we do it together. Nathan didn't see it coming. The first press release was subtle, just a short statement. Effective immediately, Eliza Hale assumes interim control. An internal audit has been commissioned to review prior executive decisions. Nathan Hale is temporarily relieved of executive responsibilities. No editorial flourish. No dramatic insults. Just the facts. The world doesn't need emotion to panic. It just needs clarity. By mid-afternoon, the phone calls started. Investors, major clients, partners overseas. Is this true? What does this mean? Can Nathan handle this? I answered calmly, always calmly. Yes, it's true. No, he cannot continue in his role until the review concludes. Nathan tried to spin it on social media, a public relations stunt. I am committed to the company and will cooperate fully, he posted. The post exploded with commentary. Investors called their brokers. Analysts published risk assessments. His credibility was gone, but he still thought charm would save him. It wouldn't. The family, that was even better. They called me, they begged, they tried guilt. Family should stick together. You don't have to humiliate him publicly. Think of our reputation, I smiled politely. I am thinking of our reputation by correcting course. They didn't get it. They still didn't understand the quiet patience that had let me build control unnoticed. By evening, Nathan cornered Claire. You don't understand what you're doing, he hissed. I understand perfectly, she said. I'm done helping you hide your mistakes. That's when I realized something. Nathan's greatest vulnerability wasn't finances. It wasn't the board. It wasn't even the press. It was the people who had believed in him blindly, and that included the woman he married. Claire stepped into the press conference beside me the next morning. Nathan was invited, of course, but he knew he was powerless to stop it. Transparency matters, Claire began, and I will not support deception. The shareholders, the employees, and the public deserve truth. The room shifted. Whispers, flashbulbs, panic in his eyes. Nathan begged. He tried pleading, rationalizing, even cursing. I let him. Let him burn himself out, because real power doesn't need to shout. It waits. And tonight, he would realize the true cost of ignoring the quiet one. By the end of the day, Nathan's private messages were being leaked to the board. They revealed incompetence. They revealed greed. They revealed lies. The empire he built on charm and misdirection. Crumbling, and me, I had only just begun. Nathan went loud. That was his mistake. The first interview aired before I even finished my morning coffee. He sat under studio lights, jaw tight, eyes darting just slightly off camera. The way people do when they're lying but still hope confidence will carry them through. This is a hostile takeover by a bitter family member, he said. Someone who walked away and now wants revenge. I didn't turn the volume up. I didn't need to. I knew what came next. By noon, my phone was vibrating nonstop. PR teams, legal counsel, journalists who suddenly remembered my name. I let them wait. Silence is not avoidance, it's pressure. Nathan accused me of everything except what he'd actually done. Jealousy, resentment, incompetence. He framed himself as the victim of a cold, calculating relative. I almost smiled. Cold and calculating is what you call a woman who doesn't panic. The second interview was worse. He talked too much, contradicted himself, mentioned documents that hadn't been made public yet. That's when the lawyers stopped breathing. By afternoon, regulators entered the picture. Not because of me, because Nathan couldn't stop talking. The asset freeze came quietly. No headlines yet. Just accounts locked, transfers denied, credit lines paused. That's when he called me. This ends now, he said, voice ragged. Call them off. I checked my watch, still calm. I don't control regulators. You control the narrative. No, I said. You surrendered it. He laughed bitterly. You think people will side with you? You're invisible. I closed my eyes briefly. Exactly. That night, the third article dropped. Discrepancies trigger regulatory review. Neutral words. Deadly consequences. Inside the company, the mood shifted. Fear turned into anger. Not at me, at him. Employees began coming forward. Internal emails surfaced. Anonymous tips flooded compliance hotlines. When the dam breaks, everyone remembers what they've been holding. Claire sat across from me in my office. They're blaming you online, she said softly. I shrugged. They always do. Aren't you worried? I met her eyes. No, because here's the truth no one tells you. If someone needs to destroy your reputation to survive, it means they're already losing. Nathan escalated. He leaked a partial story, selective emails. Old photos, anything to make me look like the villain. The problem? Context. My legal team released a timeline, not emotional, not defensive, just chronological, contracts, signatures. Ownership records. Receipts are louder than accusations. The internet noticed. The tone changed. Wait, she owned it the whole time? He signed that himself. She didn't steal anything. The narrative snapped, just like that. Nathan tried one last move, a press conference, unscheduled. unfiltered, desperate. He stood at the podium, sweat visible despite the air conditioning. "This is about control," he said. "She always wanted control." I watched from my office, muted. "He looked small, and you lied," a reporter interrupted. "About the vendors, and the loans, and the ownership structure." Questions piled up. Nathan faltered, stuttered, snapped. That was the moment. The one no PR team can save. He walked off the stage. No statement, no closure, just collapse. Later that night, Claire texted me, "HES packing." I stared at the screen. Then typed back, "Good, because the final phase wasn't about humiliation. It was about accountability. Tomorrow, the full audit would be released. Publicly, not leaked, not whispered. Published. And when it was, there would be no story left for him to control. The morning the audit was released, the world didn't whisper. It shouted. I woke to alerts flooding my phone. Stock tickers. Financial news. Social media. Notifications from journalists I didn't even know I had contacts with. The headline read simply, "Eliza Hale assumes control. Audit confirms ownership and exposes mismanagement." I sipped coffee. Calm, cool, detached. I had seen this coming for a decade. Nathan hadn't. He was the first to panic. Calls to lawyers, calls to PR, calls to friends. He tried to spin it. Tried to frame me as vindictive, jealous, unhinged. The public didn't buy it. Not when the documents were posted. Clear, traceable, unarguable, every mismanaged loan, every shell company, every unauthorized transfer, everything lay bare. The board released a statement supporting me. Neutral tone, factual, legal, unflinching. Nathan's allies, gone, some quietly resigned. Others reached out begging for immunity. Claire was there in the office watching it unfold. "You've done it," she said quietly. "No," I said. "I corrected it." The stock plummeted, but only temporarily. Because while he built on lies, I built on real assets, real ownership, and silent patience. Nathan called me that afternoon. "People will remember this," he hissed. "I don't care," I said. "They'll remember the truth." His laugh was bitter. "They'll see you as the woman who ruined me," I smiled, "or the woman who was never invisible." The family tried to intervene next. "Think about the reputation. Isn't this humiliating?" I listened politely. Then I reminded them, reputation is nothing without truth. They went silent. By evening, news outlets were reporting extensively. Analysts praised me for decisive action. Employees were relieved. Many reached out to thank me privately. Nathan's name trended, not for brilliance, not for leadership, but for fraud and failure. He disappeared from public view for a week. No interviews, no statements, no social media. The empire he'd boasted about, controlled, corrected, stabilized. I stood in my office overlooking the city lights. And for the first time in years, I felt it, the quiet satisfaction of balance restored. Not vengeance, not cruelty, justice. The final text from Claire confirmed it. He's gone, the house. The accounts, the office, everything he claimed. I replied, exactly, because the moment of reckoning isn't about revenge. It's about showing people that ignoring, underestimating, or dismissing someone doesn't erase them. It only delays the inevitable. Nathan's world had collapsed. Mine had been rebuilt in silence. And the world finally saw what I had always known. Power doesn't announce itself. It waits. The day after the audit went public, my inbox became a confession booth. People who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly remembered my name. Former executives, family members, old friends. All with the same tone. Careful, polite, afraid. They didn't say sorry. They said just checking in. I deleted most of the messages without responding. Not out of spite, out of clarity. When people only respect you after you win, they never respected you at all. Nathan didn't disappear quietly. Men like him never do. 2 days after the audit, a statement appeared on his personal website. Long, emotional, defensive. He claimed the company had been weaponized against him, that I'd been waiting for years to humiliate him. There were no receipts, only feelings. The comments were not kind. Legal consequences followed. Subpoenas, depositions, freezes extended. His lawyers stopped returning his calls before the week was over. That's how you know it's bad. Inside the company, something unexpected happened. People relaxed. Productivity increased. Smiles appeared in hallways that had once been tense. Fear had been the real tax Nathan imposed. Without him, the place breathed again. I didn't fire everyone. I didn't clean house. I listened. That confused them more than aggression ever could. The board met daily. Strategy replaced damage control. For the first time in a decade, decisions were made based on long-term stability instead of ego. The family finally gathered. An emergency dinner. No cameras. No press, just truth. My aunt cried. My uncle raged. My mother stayed quiet. They argued about loyalty, embarrassment, legacy. I waited. Then I spoke. "You taught me something valuable," I said. "You taught me not to rely on approval." Silence. "You don't get to ask for mercy now. You get to accept reality." No one argued. They couldn't. Nathan tried one last personal move. He sent me an email. Subject line, "We're still family." I didn't open it. Claire finalized the divorce quietly. No interviews, no statements, just a signature and a clean break. She sent me one message afterward. "Thank you for not letting me become collateral damage." I replied, "You chose truth. That was enough." Media interest peaked, then faded. Scandals are hungry. But truth doesn't perform forever. That was fine with me. What mattered was control, stability, restoration. One evening, weeks later, I returned to the same hotel where the wedding had been held. Same lobby, same lighting, different reality. I walked past the ballroom. Empty now, chairs stacked, flowers gone, the stage dismantled, nothing left of the performance. I paused where I'd once been seated in the corner, the worst seat in the room. I smiled, because from that seat I had seen everything clearly. The final hearing was short, not dramatic. Not televised, not messy, just fact, law, and record. Nathan sat across from me in the courtroom, shoulders slumped, expression tight. No smirk this time, no bravado. Just the hollow look of a man who built an empire on illusion and lost it to someone he refused to respect. The judge reviewed the documentation. Ownership papers, audit reports, board resolutions. Nathan's attempts to challenge them fell apart under scrutiny. I didn't speak much. I didn't need to. My lawyer presented the evidence. The truth was louder than any argument. By the time it was over, Nathan had no role, no access, no control, nothing. Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored. "Ms. Hale, do you have a statement?" I paused. The microphones, the cameras. The flashing lights. I smiled softly, calmly. Truth doesn't need amplification, it only needs patience. And I walked away. The company stabilized within weeks. Employees trusted leadership again. Investors regained confidence. The board operated efficiently. And me, I didn't announce victories, I didn't celebrate publicly, because real power doesn't need applause. The family tried one last time. "I just wish things hadn't gone public," my aunt said. I nodded politely. "I wish honesty hadn't been ignored," I replied. They didn't answer. Months later, Nathan attempted to re-enter the business world. Some meetings, a few pitches. No one took him seriously, not investors, not clients, not the media. Claire moved on quietly. We remained in contact occasionally. Not friends, not family, but allies. She understood what I had done, and for once she didn't need to explain herself. I returned to the corner seat once more. Not at a wedding this time, not at a board meeting, just a quiet office overlooking the city, a cup of tea in my hand, the sun setting behind glass towers, and the knowledge that I had waited. I had observed, I had acted, and I had won. The world had underestimated me, ignored me, dismissed me, and that's exactly why they had no chance. Power isn't loud. It doesn't beg for recognition. It waits, silently, patiently, unseen, until the moment it becomes inevitable. And that moment had arrived. I leaned back in my chair, sipping tea, watching the city move beneath me. The seat I had once been forced into, the corner, the forgotten one, was gone. I had taken back the room. The company, the name, my dignity, everything. The first message came as an email from my aunt. "Eliza, I didn't understand. I'm sorry." I didn't reply, not because I was cruel, because the apology wasn't mine to receive. It was theirs to reflect on. Then the calls started. Lawyers, former executives, even distant relatives. They spoke quickly, nervously. Words like regret, oversight, misjudgment tumbled out. Some offered excuses, others offered explanations. I let them talk. I let them feel the weight of their own words. Nathan tried too, a letter handwritten. He claimed he had been blinded by ambition, by ego, by charm. That he hadn't realized the impact of his lies. I read it once, folded it neatly, placed it in a drawer, because accountability doesn't need validation from the one who caused the harm. Claire visited briefly, not to apologize, she didn't owe me that, but to confirm the truth. "We did the right thing," she said softly. "Yes," I replied. Silence followed, comforting. The apologies came too late. Too late for him to regain trust. Too late for the family to undo the damage. Too late for anyone to rewrite history. And that was exactly as it should be. Months later, the company ran smoothly. The board had stabilized. Employees thrived. Investors returned. The media had moved on. And me, I returned to quiet. I walked the city streets early in the morning, coffee in hand. No cameras, no reporters, no accolades, just light brushing the glass towers, the hum of life continuing beneath me. Sometimes I passed the wedding hall again. Empty now, chairs stacked, lights down, music gone. I remembered the corner seat, the one where no one expected me to matter. I smiled. Because I had mattered all along, true power doesn't need validation. It doesn't shout, it waits, silently, patiently, until the moment it becomes inevitable, and then it moves. I sipped my coffee. The world kept moving beneath me, but I had taken back my place in it, not loudly, not with spectacle, but with precision, patience, and quiet strength. I had reclaimed my name, my dignity, my life. And in the end, that was enough.